A 22-year-old gunman opened fire in a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs, killing 5 people and leaving 18 injured before he was subdued by heroic patrons. And I know that by heroic here, they're quoting someone, but putting it in quotations makes it seem sarcastic, which comes across a bit tone-deaf. And arrested by police who were on the scene within the minutes, authorities said Sunday. 2 firearms, including a long rifle, were found in Club Q after the Saturday night shooting, said Police Chief Adrian Vasquez. Investigators were still determining a motive. I wonder. And the attack was being investigated to see if it should be prosecuted as a hate crime. I wonder. Charges against the suspect will likely include first-degree murder. Police identified the gunman as Anderson Lee Aldrich, who was in custody after being treated for injuries. A man with the same name and age was arrested in 2021 after his mother reported he threatened her with, quote, a homemade bomb, multiple weapons, and ammunition, unquote, according to authorities. Police did not confirm whether it was the same person, saying they were investigating whether the suspect had been arrested before. Isn't this a very easy thing to confirm? If there was the police called on it. Okay. They don't want to confirm it's the same person because it makes them look really fucking bad if this guy, this obviously psychotic, dangerous guy, had the cops called him before, and then he's just walking around. Authorities were called around midnight. It was the 6th mass killing this month and came in a year when the nation was shaken by riot. Uvalde, Texas. Club Q is a gay and lesbian nightclub that features a drag diva drag show on Saturdays, according to its website. In addition to the drag show, Club Q... For our more undifferentiated audience members, a reminder that as a guy who's been to drag shows, you know, I'm sure a lot of people imagine these as some sort of like a occult grooming den. In reality, it's really just it's like a burlesque show, except the outfits are gayer. I don't know how else to put it. Really, swear to God, go to a drag show. It's like, oh wow, people are doing like wacky cross-dressing, half stand-up comedy, half dancing. Okay. It's fruity. It's very fruity. We know what they are, and what they are is fruity. Not that sinister. Drag events have been the focus of anti-LGBTQ rhetoric and protests in recent months as opponents, including politicians. President Joe Biden said that while the motive for the shooting was not yet clear, we know that the LGBTQI... Who stops at LGBTQI+ without adding the A? Mr. Biden, what about asexual people? Mr. Biden, Mr. Biden, Mr. Biden does not respect the asexual community. Ace erasure, yeah. Of course, we have to bring this back to the people who are truly responsible for this violence. From Aaron in the Morn, who actually unblocked me on Twitter. Whoever ended up convincing her to do that, thanks. She tweets a lot about this kind of stuff. Stochastic terror becomes real terror. Those dead in the LGBTQ plus bar Club Q only died hours ago. They were having a drag brunch today. Libs of TikTok is attacking another drag brunch in Colorado and a trans legislator only hours later. Now, Libs of TikTok, these are the people responsible for prompting a bomb threat at a children's hospital. These they have essentially every like act of anti-queer violence in the past year or so has had some kind of at least ideological link to Libs of TikTok, because they're essentially like a systemic doxing account. They exist exclusively to say, I mean, look at this. This org in Colorado teaches kids how to become drag queens and helps kids safely experience the art of drag on stage. Now, I want to be clear, okay? Everyone thinks that drag is sexual. If you go and look at the outfits that are on display here. Is there anything sexual about any of these outfits? Really asking here. This is like evening attire. This is more clothing than I'm wearing right now. This is more clothing than I ever wear. They're all wearing, look at this. They're wearing a funny hat. It's campy. People are like, child drag performance, disgusting. Listen, I want to be clear, okay? And I've never been given a good counter argument for this, all right? Unless you can demonstrate that the specific drag event you're referring to has some kind of like inappropriate sexual connotation beyond people dressing wacky or like colorful, then you can't demonstrate any harm to children, okay? Like, it's like theater kid shit. Like, oh, wow, my kid's learning to do... Like, it's considered socially acceptable for little girls to do ballet, right? Like ballet is like a dance form where they wear far less clothing and far tighter clothing, frankly, that these people are. But that's that's Western civilization. That's that's Romans or something. The fact of the matter is that like 98% of the time, the concerns with like child drag whatever is just like people pointing and saying like, "Oh, gay, icky," and that's it. Yeah. Now I want to be clear, by the way. There are instances of like child drag performance that I consider inappropriate. Much in the same way that public dancing doesn't have to be sexual, but can. Drag doesn't have to be sexual, but can. There have been some times where it's like, oh, well, here's like a kid doing a drag thing, and it's a little dicey. I think that's kind of a ubiquitous problem. It's not as though we don't have issues with that kind of thing in like beauty pageants with young girls who are like fucking 5 or something. So I oppose those things broadly. But that's not a unique drag problem, and that's not really an imposition against any of this. Look at it's just Halloween costumes. Well, anyway, libs of TikTok knows what they're doing. They're fully aware. They want this to happen. I believe even Laura Boebert tweeted condemning the violence, which tracks because she's from Colorado. So she kind of has to, but she's fine with it. They're all fine with it. They know where this goes. Yeah, Lauren Gogurt, exactly. Never forget, like the language used against queer people is expressly genocidal at this point. The laws that Republicans are trying to pass have gotten to the point where it's like you can't exist as a trans child. Your parents will be arrested if you are a child and your gender identity as a trans child is affirmed. And also, any educational material which informs school children about anything queer in any sense, like even in a very neutral way, that's grooming. The implication of that logic is that the existence of trans or gay people around children is itself a form of child predation, which is not a new argument. It was used against gay people for decades and still is today. The idea that queer people are like inherently predatory and therefore a danger to the children has long been used as a way of justifying violence. Now, obviously, and I hope this would be kind of like self-evident to everyone, all right? If your logic is like, hey, this group of people are inherently child predators, what the do you think people are going to do? It's essentially like a call to violence. It's just an indirect call to violence. It's much in the same way that like early German propaganda against Jews, like the German government never officially said like, yeah, we're doing the Holocaust now, we're just going to kill all Jewish people. They didn't come out and just, oh yeah, we're doing the death order. They never did that. So anytime you hear from a centrist like, the Republicans haven't officially passed the kill all trans people law, like shut the fuck up, okay? What the Germans did was they used their control of mass media to disseminate information that made the German people indifferent to the well-being of Jewish people, after which the job had already been done. You dehumanize them, you depersonalize them, you say they're inherent threats to your people, to your children, to your economy, to your Volk. And after you've done all of that, you don't need to come out with oh, actually, it's time to do the Holocaust order. You don't need to. It's not necessary. You've already made it so that once the cops start coming around looking for them, like people are like, oh yeah, for sure. And that's the goal here, right? That's the goal. So do not, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Where's that Boobert tweet? Where's that Boebert? So many ways to pronounce her name. Here it is. The news out of Colorado Springs is absolutely awful. This morning, the victims and their families are in my prayers. This lawless violence needs to end and end quickly. Of course, this is, here we go. From just a few months ago. A, quote, kid-friendly, end quote, drag show in Texas was guarded by masked Antifa guards armed with AR-15s. Remember, they only want your guns. They want to use theirs to protect their depravity. This is an anti-degeneracy argument that was, again, common to the Nazis. The essential idea being like, I'm not going to say it, but like, these people are the problem. No actual argument is provided here. Well, these patterns keep reemerging. Depravity? Not depravity? Okay, depravity. I love mispronouncing things. It's my favorite thing in the world to do. No, Libs of TikTok still has this tweet up. Of course they do, because they want this. They want that outcome. Libs of TikTok knows that especially with Elon Musk in control of Twitter, like they're not going to get banned or blocked or whatever. They'll just leave it up. Like they'll get some outrage for a bit, whatever. They're not going to be taken off the platform. They'll just get to do it again and again. There is no real answer to stuff like this outside of deplatforming them. What argument can you make here? They're just putting up a hit list. I feel like we're kind of like at the logical extreme of the free speech debate, where you have like the far right people like putting up like name, address, open sightlines to window, and you're like, hey, can we like take this account down? And they're a centrist being like, have you tried debating them out of posting the names and addresses and workplaces of queer people? Like, okay. Is this the same thing as ISIS on Twitter? No, there's a big difference. ISIS doesn't threaten Americans, whereas Libs of TikTok does. We came to the conclusion after this election that the trans panic is bad politics, yet they're doubling down on their genocidal tendencies. It's almost like Republicans are aware of the fact that pretty soon they aren't going to have to win elections in a conventional sense anymore. They might be consolidating their rhetoric because they understand that mass popularity is no longer necessary. They've already achieved a critical portion of the population's support that they would be able to weather the consequences of attempting undemocratic control. That Supreme Court shit? Yeah, Harper v. Moore. Moore v. Harper, stop flipping it. I think Harper v. Moore sounds better, personally. Sometime in the recent past, there was a shooting in Colorado where, on the Trans Day of Remembrance, a shooter entered a gay club and killed some people, which is not good. And it turns out that the shooter is actually the grandson of a far-right MAGA Republican local representative, seen here in a dapper hat and American flag eagle tie. So that's really cool. It's all coming along nicely here. Well, more interesting than that, though, is the fact that, okay, we talked about this initially, but do you guys remember when we first went over the information about the shooting? They were like, this guy has the same name as a previous guy who had the cops called on him because he was threatening his mother with guns and bombs. No arrest noted. You guys remember that? But the cops weren't willing to say it was the same guy. Cops weren't willing to confirm whether or not this mass shooter was the guy who a year ago was threatening his mom with homemade weapons. Well, you're not going to believe it. It's the same guy. He was arrested after a standoff and charged with 6 felonies. But he was not prosecuted. The grandson of a Republican politician constructed a homemade bomb, multiple weapons, and got in a standoff with the cops. Was arrested by the cops, charged with 6 felonies, but not prosecuted. The El Paso County District Attorney has not commented on why the case was dropped. Well, I have a couple of possible explanations. The people in chat are saying ACAB, but it's not a cop thing. Cops showed up, got in a standoff, arrested him. Cops actually did their part there. Prosecutor dropped the charges. The charges against the grandson of a politician. Unfortunately, there's very little we can directly, confirm here. It's not like the prosecutor is going to say, oh yeah, we dropped these 6 felonies because we're corrupt. I don't think we're going to get that admission anytime soon. Sometimes this stuff just happens in the background, but now we know where it led to the death of, I think, 5 people at the nightclub. This is a uniquely direct sort of pipeline here, isn't it? I mean, it's very rarely as clear as like, oh yeah, the son or the grandson of a politician, clearly a psychopath, protected from criminal consequences for their violent behavior, then goes on to murder a bunch of gay people. It's very straightforward. So straightforward, honestly, that it kind of denies me the ability to offer any real analysis. Save the fact, of course, that here's Ben Shapiro's tweet. The quest by the Democratic leadership and media to link a horrifically evil shooting at a Colorado gay club to anyone who doesn't support a progressive social agenda is ongoing and terrible for the country. It's a cynical game only one side plays, and it's trash. I could spend 20 minutes digging into this, but I have only one thing to say, really. They're going to keep saying that it's not their fault and they don't actually want gay people to be hurt up until the point where they've already won, where they will admit they wanted us dead the whole time. That's it. The statement that there is no relationship between the coordinated state or countrywide Republican effort to demonize queer people and a mass shooting at a queer nightclub is such a obviously bad faith proposition that it shouldn't be treated like an actual argument and rather just a covert admission that they do in fact want you dead. which they do fully and entirely. And they will only admit their true intentions after we no longer have any say in the matter. They'll admit it when it's done, and we won't like that. Have you seen comments on various news channels about this? It's almost nothing but people celebrating the shooting and wanting to pay his bail and shit. Yeah, you don't have to go very far. You can go on Facebook, Twitter, the comment sections under a variety of news sites. There are plenty of people calling him a hero because they, again, want you dead. Wait, really? Yeah. Who? The masses. You think there wouldn't be consequences to this far-right anti-LGBT? Like, what? Of course this is where it goes. Where else does this go? You think there's like a limit, like a civility line that they draw? No, obviously not. There are plenty of people in this country, a number of people, probably millions, who fully believe that shooter was actually a MAGA hero who broke into that nightclub and probably personally stopped ongoing grooming of children, because there were, of course, drag shows hosted at that venue. Plenty of people, I imagine, believe. I doubt it's even that rare. Oh yeah, thank you for the YouTube comments. They f***ed around with the kids, then found out. Leave the kids alone. Oh, the Surfs TV. I just wanted to say that that I love you and I appreciated you stopping in. No, I didn't want to talk. We're on to other segments now, but I wanted you in chat so I could say that to you. Same place known to groom underage children. These pedos got what they deserved. That's what they all think, Keep in mind that when the Night of Broken Glass took place in Nazi Germany, it's not as though the Germans were saying like, yeah, we hate Jewish people. Yeah, well, some of them were, but a lot of them were saying like, yeah, those like traitorous businesses nearby. Oh yeah, those families that embezzled. Oh yeah, those peoples are related to the like they go after the justifying mechanism. It's not they rarely jump straight to the true position. They usually hold on to the justifiers that they're given. Did you see Candace Owens tweet about the shooting? She's encouraging more shootings. I wonder if they want you dead. Just want to make sure I'm correct in understanding the left is using the tragedy in Colorado to make the argument that unless conservatives get on board with experimenting on children's genitals with puberty blockers, then nightclub shootings will continue to happen. It's so implausibly stupid that I had to write it out. What is the implication here? She's literally right after the shooting going like, well, if you're so insistent on experimenting with children's genitals, then, yeah, 45K likes, no big deal. It is quite straightforward, any. Oh, there is a bit of good news. Cops got a rare opportunity to be based.
We respect all of our community members, including our LGBTQ community. Therefore, we will be identifying the victims by how they identify themselves and how their families have loved and identified them. The first person I'll identify is Kelly Loving. Kelly's pronouns are she, her. Daniel Aston. Daniel's pronouns are he, him. Derek Rump. Derek's pronouns are he, him. Ashley Paugh, that's P-A-U-G-H. Ashley's pronouns are she, her. Raymond Green Vance. Raymond's pronouns are he, him.
Just, obviously the subject material is sad, but I think it's nice that the department took a rather insistent, position on this, Not just like, oh yeah, crime happens, but more like, this, we're sort of ideologically, standing with the victims, which is nice.